Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and the thumbnail, man, we're going to be studying some film on Lavonte David. Man, in this first play right here, man, this is just violence at its finest. So you look at Lavonte David, he came in on an A-gap blitz. Saquon Barkley actually did his job in terms of stepping up, blitz pickup, but it's just when you're dealing with a guy as physical as Lavonte David, man, he just ran on and took Saquon Barkley head on and really kind of just power rushed him. And then, obviously he ended up kind of going past Jalen Hurts, but still having that high energy, that high effort motor. He was able to come back around and end up getting the strip sack. And like I say, that to me, to be an elite defense period, but especially an elite defender, man, a lot of it really comes down for effort, man. Because like I say, you look right there, the average person probably would have been like, well, man, I tried and they just didn't get it, but he swung right back around and came up and ended up getting a strip sack, man. That's one of those things, like, that doesn't take talent. That doesn't take, out of this world level athleticism, man. That just takes pure heart and determination. So right here on this play, man, this was just good execution on Tampa Bay defense as a whole. But we're going to talk about Lavonte David, obviously. So it looks like they ran a stunt, whereas it showed that Lavonte David was going to hit one gap, but then end up swapping it at the last minute. So you got the running back Gainwell who comes over. So how it was supposed to have been normally, if they just rushed like how they normally would and they didn't have a stunt or anything like that, Gainwell would have possibly picked up Lavonte David, or Lavonte David would have came from his end. So number 77 would have picked up Lavonte David and Gainwell would have got the other guy. But when they ran that stunt, Lavonte David showed as if he was going to rush from this end and swapped it at the last minute and came on the back end. So number 77 ended up blocking. Number 77 and Gainwell ended up blocking the same guy. You see number 14 come and chip and boom, knock him down. And now that leaves Lavonte David with a free rush to the quarterback, man. And then just, it shows you Lavonte David's strength as well, man. We know how strong Jalen Hurts is. We've seen the videos of him squatting. I mean, we've seen how hard it is to kind of bring him down and to be able to get a hold to him and hold on to him long enough for help to be able to come and help you bring him down, man. That just shows you how much of a grown man Lavonte David is. So, man, I know this is a Lavonte David film study, but, man, I gotta give some kudos to Gainwell, man, because one thing I'm noticing from watching Lavonte David clips against Philadelphia is the willingness for this guy to step up in pass protection. I mean, you've seen him on the previous play with the chip block, and then you've seen him on plays where he's taking it on head on. But I think that's just a mentality for the Eagles, because also you've seen Saquon Barkley on that play that Lavonte David was able to get the strip sack on him. But we're going to hop back over to Lavonte David now. So you see Lavonte David's matched up one-on-one with the tight end. So I don't know if this was what was actually going through his head. Obviously, that would be one of them things that you would kind of have to ask him if you actually had the chance. But I know football instincts. I know football IQ. So you look at the tight end runs an out-breaking route, right? So when you run an out-breaking route, the sideline is your best friend as a defender, right? So that's like your level of help defense. So once he breaks out for the out route, once he shows that Lavonte David did a good job at reading it and breaking downhill. Now here's the benefit of that. So once you know that, if he underthrows that ball at all, that's an interception. Like, no questions asked. So it's like with that type of play, it's either going to have to be an overthrow and the sideline going to have it, or it's going to be a perfectly placed ball to where only the tight end can get it. But knowing that you have that freedom to be able to try to make a play on the ball because of the sideline, and let's just say even if he does catch it and you don't get the pick, 9 times out of 10, based off of how that pass would have to be thrown, is probably going to lead him out of bounds anyway. But then you also still have over the top help. You know that you obviously, like they was in a cover one, the deep safety was just out of frame. But then even with the cornerback, once the cornerback realized that the ball was thrown, he drove back downhill too, just trying to give him some support help. So just good football instincts. So right here we got another one of those one-on-one matchups. Man, one thing I'm noticing about Lavonte David too, man, it's like his mind. And it can come from preparation, but it's like he's always one step ahead of what the other team is trying to do in a sense. You know what I mean? You look at the previous play where he made a break underneath on that ball to try to undercut it and get an interception or a pass breakup. And then even when you look right here, whereas, he has another one-on-one matched up with a big tight end and Kyle Pitts that's like 6'6". I mean, you can see the size difference, but you just look at how well he covered that. You see that he secured the tackle first and then came around with the other arm. He secured the tackle with the left arm and then came around with the right arm to try to disrupt the pass. So whereas even if he wasn't able to knock the ball out of Kyle Pitts' hand, he still would have secured the tackle, man. Like I say, that's fundamentals for one, making sure that you have the tackle first before you try to swap swat at the ball. And then two, just being able to recognize exactly what they're trying to do and be able to kind of, get yourself in a position to where you can, effectively disrupt the timing of that route. And that's just phenomenal. Like I said, man, Lavonte David is one of those guys that's you would classify as a 3-down player, meaning that if with linebackers, right, the most important objective for a defense is to stop the run. Most of the time, first down, second down, probably it's going to be run plays. Depending on how successful the first and second down was, that'll kind of determine what you're working with on third down. But when you have a linebacker like him, you don't have to become predictable with swapping out personnel because this guy's good in the run, but he's not good in the pass. When you got a guy like Lavonte David who can defend the run, who can defend the pass, and who can rush the quarterback and put pressure on the quarterback, I mean, it makes your life as a defensive coordinator so much easier. So right here, this is another beautiful play by Lavonte David, man. So you see that the offensive lineman, it looked like they was trying to give maybe a double team initially off of that interior tackle. I'm trying to see, is that Vita Veda? I think that is. So like he was trying to kind of give like a double team. So what it was number 64 was blocking him. And he kind of was like, okay, I'm going to chip. And then I'm going to climb to the next level and go take the biggest threat on the next level, which was Lavonte David. But Lavonte David did a good job at recognizing what they were doing, which was an outside run and being able to take an angle and also avoid not allow the offensive lineman to be able to block him. Like even when you see right there, the offensive lineman kind of tried to stick his hands out to try to slow him down. And Lavonte David did a good job at kind of stiff arming him and just, not allowing him to slow him down or take him out to play. And then, like I say, it's just like everything else was fundamentally sound as well. Like when you look at the outside containment, you know what I mean? It didn't really give him any options of anything interior wise because it was all congested up there. And then you look at everybody else kind of playing their jobs. You look at the corner doing his job in terms of outside containment. Obviously, he still was running to the outside, but it made for him to kind of have to, take a slower approach opposed to if the corner wouldn't have been there and he was able to get to that edge much quicker, it probably would have been a completely different play. But to me, this is the embodiment of how you stop a good run game. Like when you think about guys like Saquon, you think about guys like Derrick Henry, and we talk about like, okay, how do we stop them? Like it's not one person's job to stop them. It's a team job. Everybody has to be physical up front at the point of attack, clogging up the gaps, make them go left and right. And allow your linebackers to be able to shoot those gaps whenever you take those blocks head on to come make tackles. And then your corners as well as your safeties, your corners have to do a good job at outside containment and have the willingness to come down and make tackles as well as the safety. And as long as you can do that, man, you will be a pretty well-oiled machine in terms of being able to minimize some of the effectiveness with those powerhouse run teams. So this looked like this was a Tampa 2 play. For those who don't know, a Tampa 2 is pretty much a cover 2, but normally with a cover 2, you have two deep safeties, and the weakness of the field is normally up the middle, the seams of it. But a Tampa 2 takes away from that because it'll drop the middle linebacker, and now he kind of acts as a third defender, kind of similar to a cover 3 play. Now, granted, this play, what kind of threw me off was that how the corners wasn't necessarily playing low in the flats because you did have two options in the flats. You had Pitts, and then you had the running back. Now, the thing is, they did stay back to act as chip blockers to be able to create time for the quarterback to throw the ball. So that might have been what kind of threw the defense off too. And I think that also knowing that this was a 4th and like 17, they know that they have to actually throw the ball to a degree. To like you have to kind of throw it downfield to get past the sticks, because anything underneath with the way that defense plays, they was going to rally downhill and tackle you well before you got the first down. So they played a little bit deeper assignment on those to kind of stay underneath anything if it was coming back. And Lavonte David did a phenomenal job at just reading the eyes of Kirk Cousins. Like you look at Kirk Cousins right there, he kind of was looking at center field, and then once he realized, like, okay, I'm just finna go and get it right here, Lavonte Davis just stepped in front of it, man, and made the game ending interception. All right, so right here we got a gotta have it for both parties, man. You see Baltimore, they gotta have it. They trying to put the ball in the end zone. Obviously, the Buccaneers are trying to stop them from putting the ball in the end zone to put their offense back on the field to try to put some points up. So you know that when you're in the red area, Lamar Jackson is at his most lethal. He's dangerous everywhere. I'm not gonna say that but he's more lethal in the red area, right? Because it's so much easier to run the ball in for a touchdown in the red area than to try to pass because of how tight and how congested it is down here. Obviously, you see that right here on this play for Lavonte David getting his pass deflection. So obviously Tampa Bay, they understand that as well. Ty Bowles, good defensive mind. So they send pressure on this 3rd and 3 play, right, to avoid the possibility of him rolling out the pocket. So once they send that pressure, you have to realize that, okay, we still have to be able to get home. So once Lavonte David came in, I don't know if he was acting as a spy, or I don't know if he was going to actually try to rush in and put pressure add another level of pressure to Lamar Jackson. But I'm pretty sure he kind of played it more so as a spy, not being overly aggressive and just trying to shoot to try to get to him. He kind of played it more patiently and was able to jump up and deflect that pass. Now, if he didn't deflect that pass, that probably was a touchdown, because Mark Andrews right here, see, they put number 3 in conflict because you have the tight end, the other guy, he's running a slant, and then Mark Andrews kind of just sat down like a hitch route. So it looks like that if maybe he threw it to the other tight end, number 89, I believe that I think that is Whitehead might have made a play on that ball. But if Lavonte David didn't get his hand up and swat it and they threw it to Mark Andrews, man, that would have been a touchdown. Once again, man, beautiful play recognition on Lavonte David part, man. And I know a lot of that probably came from film study too, just looking at different formations, looking at what they like to do out of certain lineups, but then also too kind of just being observant of the offensive line and look at how they all kind of pulling to the outside more times than not. That lets you know that it's a screenplay. And man, he just was able to get there before the blockers even had a chance of being able to climb and get to him, man. Like I say, he just has a natural instinct for reading and reacting. And let's just say if it wasn't a screenplay and they were throwing that ball to Drake London, who is number 5, he breaks already right there. So honestly, it still would have been a minimal gain, even if it was an outside throwing route or in this case, the screen route, man. So that's just beautiful, man, instincts. Another skill of Lavonte David I see is that he's very good at being able to evade blocks. Like, just look at how he was able to evade the block number 84. But then also, too, I'm learning that a lot of people kind of have the conception that linebackers have to have like crash dummy 100 miles per hour type of effort every play, which is true to a degree, but you have to be able to analyze the situation, because sometimes if you overcommit, you hurt your team. You give running backs or ball carriers options to be able to do back cuts on you and things like that. But if you wait, patiently size it up, and then attack at the right time, then you limit what they can do and you kind of take it away. But if you just be overly aggressive, a lot of times you would kind of find yourself out of position to make plays. And that's what he did right here. He wasn't over aggressive, but he was able to be patient, kind of read it out and see what it was. And once he identified it, he came downhill and was able to evade the block of number 84 and make a tackle in open space against Xavier Worthy, who, obviously we know how fast he is. And that's, something that a lot of players probably wouldn't be able to do. And Patrick Mahomes puts that ball right there on the money. That gives him the opportunity to be able to create some yards after the catch. Man, so right here, man, the level of violence, man, this is for the people who say that modern day football is weak. Man, I always tell y'all, if y'all want to see physical football Sunday in and Sunday out, watch the battle that goes on in those trenches, man. And this is another prime example of that, man. Lavonte David does a good job of diagnosing this play, man, and he just used violence, man. He got to him, he kind of beat Eustace to the point of attack and just ran straight through him and was able to make the tackle on Christian McCaffrey. And even if he wouldn't have got help from number 94, man, I do believe strongly that he still would have made that tackle, kind of similar to the Xavier Worthy one. Another thing, too, that I would say that I like about Tampa Bay is that they do a phenomenal job at flowing to the ball. Like, look at how many hats are pursuing the ball. Like, look at how many, so let's just say, for instance, if they do miss those tackles, if Lavonte David and number 94 miss, you got so many other hats around to make the play. Like, this is what you call beautiful defense at its finest, man. This is the importance of that. And also having team and having a defense to do that, it creates opportunities for turnovers, right? Let's just say, for instance, if Lavonte David was able to get a strip on Christian McCaffrey, the more hats you got around the ball, the opportunities you have to be able to recover it. Let's just say, for instance, if Lavonte David wraps him up and can't get him down and he's pulling them down and somebody else comes and realizes that he has the tackle secured, okay, let me go for the ball. And they, try to get a forced fumble. So much good comes from rallying to the ball as a defense. It's so crazy because in the previous clip, y'all heard me talking about the importance of rallying to the ball. And one of the benefits I said was being able to possibly jar the ball out once your teammates have a tackle secured. And God dog it, the very next play, this is exactly what happens. Tampa Bay, obviously, you see how many hats they got around the ball. They did a good job of flowing to the ball. You got three guys right there, but number 52, Britt, kind of had the tackle secured. He was going to the ground, and that allowed Lavonte David to just come in and jar the ball loose. And they got that fumble recovered too, by the way. And I think that was kind of in the red area, so that took away from a scoring opportunity from the Giants. But that is one of the many benefits you have of rallying to the ball play after play. So right here is going to be the final clip that I'm going to end it off with. And, man, right here, I'm going to show you the benefits, too, of having a dominant D-line period, especially interior tackle, right? So, obviously, the straightest path to the quarterback is straight. And that's the path that interior linemen can take. So if you have a dominant interior lineman like Vita Veda that can disrupt the line of scrimmage, it creates opportunities for a lot of people elsewhere. So what do I mean by that? So pay attention. Whereas you see that they would have you see how they came and double teamed Vita Veda, right? And it allowed a clear lane for Lavonte David to get through. So Lavonte David also did a good job at being patient, because had he overly pursued and was overly aggressive, he might not have got that sack, because the lineman probably would have been able to pick him up. But by him hesitating, it almost kind of can make the lineman think that he's probably finna get to drop back in the coverage. And then by the time you realize that he's actually finna rush the quarterback, it's too late now, because you're kind of out of position. So that's one of the benefits, one of the many benefits of having an interior D line. So, man, I enjoyed this. This was probably one of my favorite film breakdowns that I have done so far. And the thing that I noticed about breaking down this film is that Lavonte David's a dog. Obviously, we all know that. But, man, Tampa Bay defense is a lot better than what I give them credit for. Obviously, I go back to the Super Bowl year. To me, I think that the strength of that defense was a front seven, D-line, linebackers. The weaknesses was the secondary. But you look at all of the stuff that they had lost all of the time, with losing Devin White and with losing a couple other guys, that you think that the productivity and production rate would have slowed down. But, man, these guys are still effective. I love the physicality, man. I love the flowing to the ball, man. They do a lot of things right. So, man, I'm, look forward to seeing how they're going to come out this year. But, Lavonte David is a stud, man. He's been like that since I remember when I'm a Saints fan. So, I remember when he first came to the Buccaneers, and he's been a problem, his whole entire career. So, man, hats off to him at the age he's still. And it's not saying that, just because you're that age that you supposed to slow down. But, obviously the average person, as they get older, their, effectiveness within the game starts to kind of decrease. But then you do have those guys like Lavonte David who just, keep getting, it's like they get better with age. But, man, if you did enjoy this video, do me a big, big, big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, click that notification bell, where you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.